Hi, welcome back to Reading with Mani. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Mani, I'm a teacher and I love talking about books. In this video, I'll be setting up my reading journal for 2022. I'm using the same journal as this year because, as you could see, I haven't really filled up too many pages this year. The journal is from Notebook Therapy. I'll link it and all the other supplies used in the description. You can also find my setup video for 2021 right here in the cards above. The voiceover is in Spanish, but you'll get the gist. I wasn't ready to let go of the whole dark academia vibes, so I'll be changing up some of the elements, namely the washi tapes and exchanging silver for gold, basically, but the theme is pretty much the same. I've also used a font inspired by Charisse T here on YouTube. I'll link her video in the description as well. It was a bit tricky to figure out what I should outline first, but basically I first sketched everything in pencil and then I used either my Pigma Micron 0.2 fine liner or my Faber-Castell XS Bit Artist pen to outline the floral part, and then I used my gold gel pen for the actual letters. I apologize if you can't see very well what I'm doing. The florals are so tiny and I think my hand was covering them the whole time. Hopefully it'll be clear, and I think in other spreads you can actually see it better. I also apologize for the amount of times you'll see my head appearing in the shot. I changed my filming setup and I'm not used to it yet. You may also notice some abrupt cuts here and there. That's because my phone decided to stop recording. For the rest of the decorations in these spreads, I used some black cardstock scraps, some pictures of books and dictionaries that I previously printed, this fall washi tape that I printed with the faces of the moon, and like 5 different green and gold foil washi tapes. The quote I chose, which will appear now in a few seconds, is from one of my favorites from this year. It's by John Green from his book The Anthropocene Reviewed. I talk more about it in my favorites video, which I'll also link in the cards above. The quote reads, "What an astonishment to breathe on this breathing planet. What a blessing to be Earth, loving Earth." If you haven't read this book, go read it immediately. And here you can watch me struggle with the placement of this little piece of washi tape. Truly the hardest part of doing a kind of scrapbooking theme is knowing where to put the different elements, at least for me. I used the Tombow Mono permanent adhesive to glue all the different elements in, which I think is really the best option when you need to stick many things in a journal like this, so that you don't need to use any liquid glue or even stick glue, which can get messy as well. This is all mess free. Now I'm putting some finishing touches, some final details on these first spreads, and I'm done with this cover page and quote page. And here's a close-up. As you can see, I added some dots and tiny circles around the letters to make them flow a bit more, and I really like how the whole thing came out. Moving on to the next spread, this is my favorite to set up every year. For the past 3 years, I've set up a bookshelf reading tracker in my regular bullet journal. However, for this year, I decided to go all out in my reading journal. I started out with the shelves and then moved on to the decorations, which you will see in a moment. As you may know, the idea behind this tracker is to draw a book and write the title on the spine for each book you finish. I like drawing them as I go so as to keep them in order and well balanced, which is why you will not see me actually drawing the books here. I'm sure I have space for at least 50 books, which is my goal for next year, but more on that later. Now for the decorations. They each represent a book I read this year and loved. They include an hourglass, a poster with a quote, a lighthouse, a sign with 5 stars, a poster with a bee, key, sword, and 7 stars, a Greek-style column, a crown, a cat, and a house, a very peculiar house. Can you guess what books they represent? I'll give you a few seconds before I start talking about them. Okay, here it goes. Let me know in the comments if you guessed right. The Hourglass is from the cover of They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I read that book in like 5 hours months ago, and I still think about it from time to time. Next is the quote from The Lord of the Rings, which I reread this year. It's the classic, "The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began." Then I drew a lighthouse for one of my absolute favorites, The Kingdoms by Natasha Pulley. Again, you can hear more of my thoughts on some of these books in the video of my favorites of this year so far, which again is linked in the cards above. Then the 5 stars is another nod to the Anthropocene Reviewed. And next comes the Greek style column. I think I was going for a Corinthian order type. Anyway, it represents Piranesi by Susanna Clark. There's all sorts of sculptures talked about in that book, but I was not going to draw something more elaborate. The next decoration combines another 2 of my favorites, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which is represented by the bee, the key, and the sword. And then also The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which is represented by the 7 stars. Next up is The Crown, which can represent 2 books, both with a Shakespearean element. The first is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and the other is If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. In both books, the characters represent King Lear, and so I thought that a crown was very fitting. Then I added a cat because one should always have a cat around. That's basically it. Then for some reason I started adding the gold details. Here you can see me doing the 7 stars in gold and filling in some details in the bee, the key, the sword, etc. And here's where I realized that I hadn't drawn the house, which obviously is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I have a whole reading vlog on my channel if you want to see it. Again, I'll link it up in the cards. I have read many great books this year, but not all of them had an easy enough aspect to draw on these shelves, especially for someone with a limited artistic ability as myself. So these are the ones I chose. Then I moved on to the title, and sadly this is where the footage cuts out again because my phone decided to run out of storage, but I have a close-up in a few seconds where you can see the final result. You will see that I did the same font with the florals and the gold. I added some washi tape. And the other thing is the key with the colors I'll be using to color in the books once I read them. Green for physical, gray for ebook. I don't really listen to audiobooks as some people do, so with those 2 I'll be fine. Now the next spread is kind of like a continuation of the previous one. I'm still going to use it to record the books I read, but here I can give more details like the title, author, the dates I read them, and the rating. Here's a close-up again of the first part of the table. I left the other page open to complete later. Next is a challenges tracker, which I'll be using to track my Goodreads challenge, which is reading 50 books for next year. This year, so far, today is the 15th of December, I have read 46 books, I think. I still have 4 to go, so we'll see what we can do. So here I'm just drawing some boxes for, 50 boxes, 1 for each book. And I still have a lot of open space in these spreads to add other challenges. So if you know of any other challenges that I should participate in, let me know down in the comments. I'll be looking forward to participating in more challenges this year. Next up is my stats page, which I've been using this year and I love seeing the numbers. Basically, I'm tracking how many pages I read in each month, then how many physical books, how many ebooks, and then the total. And then obviously at the end of the year, I'll sum up everything to see how much I read. On the other side is a YouTube tracker / ideas page. I don't know how seriously I'm taking this still, but I still think it would be nice to have a place where I can record ideas for videos and then check off if I have done them or not. And also start tracking my subscriber count and my watch hours count, just to see, just for fun basically, because I am not expecting anything out of this YouTube channel in terms of, money or whatever. But I still think it's fun to track those things with no pressure. Also, one of my cats was there the whole time I was recording this setup, and she kept trying to sit on the journal or sit on my hand, as you will see later, but she's good company. Here you will see me realize that I have been tilting the letters to the side. They're not centered in the column, which bothers me a bit, but whatever, it's fine. I am extremely proud of how straight all of these gold lines are, at least on this page. I think I mess up on the next spread, but again, whatever, it's fine. A very important thing to bear in mind while using these gel pens is that they take a while to dry. So when doing these type of lines and tables, it's very important to let each layer dry before you run your hand over the page to make the next line, because you will smudge everything. Another thing that I haven't shown you in the video is when I erase my pencil lines, my pencil guidelines. I take special care to erase around the gold ink with a tiny eraser that comes with my pencil, because I find that if you erase right on top of the ink, it will take away some of the metallic shine. So I take special care to do it with a tiny eraser, and then go over with a pen again, just in case, just to give it back all that shine. Now again, I'm adding some more washi tape, because you can never go wrong with washi tape. And then we have a close-up and we move on to the last spread. Now the last spread in this initial setup is the book bracket, to decide the best book of the year. I have done this a bit differently than this year. I think I organized it a bit better on the page itself. So on the side I have a space to record the best book of each month. I randomized the order so that January doesn't go against February and so on. Here I am realizing that January line is not centered the same as the others, which again the perfectionist in me had to take a seat because it was better to leave it like that than trying to fix it. It's going to be very hard to choose a favorite book this year, and I imagine that next year as well, but I'll see what I can do. Here I am making the title with my florals, and that is it for this setup. Here's also where my cat decided that she had been patient enough and that she needed my attention, so there she is, resting on my arm. She's so cute. Here I'm going through the pages to check if I need to put any other details, like a little piece of washi tape here and there. And that is it. Now I will leave you with a final flip through. I hope you enjoyed this video, that you found some inspiration for your own reading journals. Let me know in the comments which was your favorite spread, if you know of any challenges for me to take part in next year, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, happy reading!